95.7 The Game.
All right, what's going on? Kyle is in for Dibs, Willard and Dibs. The holiday week is upon us. 957thegameshop.com. Glad you're with us, Matty Barrows, in just a second, but I want to read to you just a little blurb, and then we're going to keep following it, what Susan Slusser has said in the Chronicle after the Giants postponed their scheduled news conference today with Carlos Correa. She writes, Carlos Correa had his physical on Monday, so there could just be a delay in processing information from that, especially during Christmas week, or perhaps Correa has come down with an illness and had a COVID test, though those results are typically quick. Players seldom fail physicals, but it has been known to happen. One reason clubs are hesitant to release information about signings before physicals are complete. Correa has had some back issues in the past, but there have been no indications there were any major concerns that might crop up, and he's a well-conditioned 28-year-old athlete. So that's what Susan has said about it right now. Alex Pavlovich going to jump on, I think, in about an hour, unless something breaks to the otherwise. But we'll keep following that for you. And in the meantime, let's hang out with Matty Barrows on the 49ers. Happy holidays, Matt. What's going on?
Well, what's going on with you? Yeah, you guys are going from well-conditioned 28-year-old athlete to something on the other side of the spectrum.
Moderately conditioned veteran reporter. That's what I would call you.
That's right. I'm not failing my reporter physical. That's for sure.
Well, I will. Yeah, I'll say something for you here, Matt. And by the way, I'd say this about the people in this room as well. Like, we're not comparing ourselves to professional athletes. If you look around press rooms, I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, you know what? Probably the Bay Area press corps, from top to bottom, probably ranks pretty well among nationwide press corps. I would say.
True. That's probably
I'll do that
true.
on Bart. I'll sit there and Bart, and I'm like, I'm a better athlete than that guy.
Totally.
That guy could beat me in one-on-one for sure.
That's right. Absolutely.
I do like the idea of market media fitness rankings. I do like that, and I think we should dive in.
Well, I got to say, my counterpart up in Seattle who covers the Seahawks, the Seahawks do basically a media combine where media members do all the combine drills. And my counterpart, Michael Sean Dugar, ran something crazy like a 4.5640.
No.
Sign him up.
I would be lucky to run a 5.5640 if we did that. So I don't want the 49ers to start doing that, catch wind of what Pete Carroll is doing up in Seattle.
Matty Barrows officially does not want any of that smoke. Okay, no. Noted. All right. What about this? We were just talking about this. Robert Saleh with an interesting quote yesterday. Matt, he's talking about Zach Wilson, and he said, we're living in this NFL instant coffee world where nobody is allowed time to get any better. And he's talking about Zach Wilson, who's played in 21 games. He's thrown over 600 passes. And my mind went to Trey Lance, who's only started 4 games and has only thrown 102 passes. Yet this Brock Purdy experience has led to a lot of people making up their mind about Trey Lance. What do you think the future right now holds for him?
Well, I mean, it's always been a long play for him. That was the sentiment from the get-go, that this is going to be sort of a long evolution for him, but at the end of the day, we are going to have a really special quarterback. And I'm glad you brought up that Saleh quote, because, there are guys on the 49ers who are like that. A year ago at this time, you would have said that Aaron Banks and Diamador Lenore, a couple of rookies, were total busts. Those guys couldn't get on the field. And now they're every game starters, and they're doing really well, and this, that, and the other. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the difference between Purdy and Lance right now is that Purdy had all sorts of college experience, and Lance didn't. And so there's a comfort level, with Purdy over Lance doing certain things. But I still believe that the long-term thought on Lance is good. Now it's got to change though, because I think that Shanahan and those coaches thought, okay, the way that we're going to sort of ease him into the NFL is to run him a lot, and that's going to keep offenses off balance, and it's going to open things up in the run and the passing game for him. et cetera, et cetera. The run game stuff has been disastrous for him so far because of the injury. So I think that needs to be rethought. But, I think that's a really great take, a really nice comparison that it takes time with these guys. And, there's a long list of players who were quote-unquote trash early on in their career who somehow became really good a few years down the line.
That's the path I'm hoping to take. Trash early in my career, but developing down the line for sure. I think there was a thought going into this season or over the last few weeks that the 49ers next year would have Trey Lance as a quarterback option, and then they would bring in a veteran to maybe compete for that job with him, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo or somebody else. Is Brock Purdy playing well enough in your eyes to maybe make it so the 49ers don't need to add a viable veteran starter and it can be Lance v. Purdy in training camp?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, obviously, this next month and a half, 2 months, I don't know how long the season is going to last, but I think that's going to answer a lot of the questions. But, I mean, even going back to August, Shanahan seemed to be comfortable enough with Purdy that he was ready to have Purdy be the number two, and that was before we saw him do anything in a real game or something like that. But I mean, I think one of the lessons from this season is that it's hard to have enough quarterbacks. So I would wonder about who the third guy would be. You would have Lance, you would have Purdy. Probably Garoppolo has priced himself out of the situation at that point. I'm assuming that he gets a lot more attention in free agency in March than he did on the trade market at that time last year. So you're talking sort of, maybe Josh Johnson is the answer there. Certainly he could be somebody that they keep around. They like to have four quarterbacks in the spring. So I would say it's less than Andy Dalton type of guy. That would be the third guy. I think that's a very viable plan, especially when you're now considering a deal for Nick Bosa and a possible deal for Brandon Ayuk and a possible deal for Mike McGlinchey and Robbie Gould, and really, nobody wants to hear this, but as full as the defensive line is, there's only a handful of guys at that position who are signed for next year, so they've got to do a lot of work there as well. My point being, they've got a lot of money to spend in the off season. Most of it is filling holes, but it's money nonetheless.
Matty Barrows on the 49ers joining us here, 95.7 The Game, Willard and Dibbs with Kyle in for Dibbs this week. Matty, is there anything Brock can do this year? And I mean, I get it. He could win the Super Bowl, but what does the rest of the year have to look like for Brock Purdy to actually surpass Trey Lance for next year and be the presumptive starter in the offseason?
I mean, do what he's doing. I'm almost straining to find faults in him because you think, wow, this is too good to be true. What's the catch here? But so far so good. And I keep going back to that sequence when they were pinned up against their own 1 yard line in Seattle, and it wasn't a great drive. They had to punt after 6 plays, but just what he was able to do down there. I mean, which has been a house of horrors. I mean, that field itself has been terrible, but those situations where the Seahawks can and their fans can really get on top of you, and he was unfazed. I mean, he looked great, made great decisions. I mean, I think that's it. The nutshell. Shanahan wants to see that decision making that we've seen so far carry through and probably get a little bit better. He's gotten lucky. A couple of easy pick balls have just been dropped by defenses. So that's really it for Shanahan. He wants to see a good marriage between aggressiveness and smarts. He wants the guy to be aggressive, but in the right spot. I know it sounds elementary, but it's a tough balance for a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of young quarterbacks to pull off. But so far, Purdy's instincts have been pretty good.
Turn my mic on. Are there any more boxes that Brock Purdy needs to check for you in the regular season? Because for me, it's like he's got to go to the postseason. He's got to go on the road in the postseason and see how he plays in those environments. But for me personally, I don't see anything else he needs to do in the regular season to kind of prove himself outside of just continuing to play well. Am I missing anything?
Well, I mean, there was a definite lack of zip on his passes in Seattle, and I think Shanahan kind of schemed around that. It was a brilliant play calling game for Shanahan. I would assume that has a lot to do with the oblique issue, the rib issue that Purdy was dealing with. It seemed like the previous two games had more. So that's always going to be a question mark with a smallish quarterback like him. He did push the ball deep down the field against the Buccaneers, but those were wide open passes. So I mean, again, it's like we're straining to find. We're really nitpicking his game at this point, but I would say the deep ball, can he hit Ayuk on a true 9 route? In the future, can he hit Danny Correa on those types of things? We saw Trey Lance do that really well in the summer. That would be my question with Purdy moving forward.
Matt, what do you think the 49ers do with these last 3 games? I know Kyle has said that sure, they're going to play. They're going to go for the 2 seed, if you will. But nagging injuries, do they err on the side of caution and keep people out? What's the philosophy with these last 3, knowing that nothing worse than the 3 seed's already wrapped up?
Yeah, I think they go full bore because that 2 seed could mean the difference between an extra game at Levi's Stadium in the postseason and going on the road to Dallas or Minnesota or something like that. So you want to avoid that scenario if possible. I think that last game against the Cardinals, is everything decided by then? And if so, I think that could be a true bye week, or at least sort of like a preseason week where you have your starters, go into the third quarter, but then you look on the field and Nick Bosa's not out there and Eric Armstead's not out there. I think that would be really smart. You kind of keep them, going, but you also give them basically a mini bye heading into that first week of the playoffs.
Do you think we'll see Deebo Samuel again in the regular season?
Yeah, I think that's another, where are they in going into that Week 18 game against the Cardinals? If everything's wrapped up, I'd say no for sure. But it was funny. Kyle Shanahan said 3.5 weeks was the prognosis he got for him, and that was with 4 games left. So it'll be a decision going to that last week for sure. He's a guy, frankly, who when he's not playing, he tends to put on weight. So I don't know whether that kind of factors into it. Just his conditioning and wanting to get him at kind of peak Deebo heading into that first week of the postseason.
Matty, great stuff. Happy holidays. Christmas Eve at Levi's, huh?
Yeah, Christmas Eve at Levi's. That'll be. I guess we had that a couple of years ago, but that's a pretty good way to kind of begin the Christmas weekend, I think.
Yeah, perfect.
Christmas Eve's.
Yeah. Yes, Captain Pun, Kyle Madsen has struck again. It's Christmas Eve's coming up Saturday. Commanders, 49ers. Matty, thank you so much, man. Happy holidays.
All right, to you guys too.
All right,
thanks, Matt.
Okay, there goes Matty.